So, hello and welcome back yet again to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where in the spirit of, oh, what a difference a day makes, yesterday there was snow. It was snowing, and today the sun is out and the snow is melting again. Weather in Michigan is a unique prospect. It kind of just does what it wants. It never does what I want it to, except like today. I'm 1,000,000,000% all for this whole sun thing. In fact, we have not all the way, but we have open water. My swans are swimming, not just walking on snowbanks. So, spring, it's a crazy season. Also crazy is what's going on in our story, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You know, it sounds like Monsieur Arnaud and Conseil and Ned Land have been basically press ganged into the Nautilus. I mean, I guess if it's a choice between joining the crew and swimming with the fishes, I would also join the crew. So that is kind of where we left off, and now we are going to read another couple of chapters of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Monsieur Jules Verne, beginning with chapter 11, The Nautilus. Captain Nemo rose and I followed him. A folding door contrived at the back of the room opened, and I entered a room about the same size as the one I had just left. It was a library. High bookcases of black rosewood supported on their shelves a great number of books in uniform binders. They went round the room, terminating at their lower part in large divans covered with brown leather, curved so as to afford the greatest comfort. Light movable desks, made to slide in and out at will, were there to rest one's book on while reading. In the middle was a vast table, covered with pamphlets, amongst which appeared some newspapers that were already old. "Captain Nemo," I said to my host, who had just thrown himself onto a divan, "you have a library here that would do honor to more than one continental palace, and I am lost in wonder when I think that it can follow you to the depths of the ocean." "Where could there be more solitude or more silence, Professor?" said Captain Nemo. "Did your study in the museum offer you as much quiet?" "No, and I must acknowledge it is a very poor one compared to yours. You must have from 6 to 7,000 volumes here." 12,000, Monsieur Arnaud. These are the only ties between me and the earth, but the day that my Nautilus plunged for the first time beneath the waters, the world was at an end for me. That day, I brought my last books, my last pamphlets, and my last newspapers, and since then, I wish to believe that men no longer think nor write. These books, Professor, are at your disposition. You may use them freely." I thanked Captain Nemo and went up to the library shelves. Books of science, ethics, and literature, written in every language, were there in quantity, but I did not see a single work on political economy amongst them. They seemed to have been prohibited on board. The most recent volume had been published in 1865. It was, therefore, 3 years at most since Captain Nemo had begun his submarine existence. He then opened the opposite door to the one by which we had entered, and I passed into an immense and brilliantly lighted saloon. It was a vast four-sided room with paneled walls measuring 30 feet by 18 and about 15 high. It was, in fact, a museum in which an intelligent and prodigal hand had gathered together all the treasures of nature and art with the artistic infusion of a painting studio. About 30 pictures by the best artists, uniformly framed and separated by brilliant drapery, were hung on the tapestry of a quite severe design. I saw their works of great value, most of which I had admired in the special collections of Europe and in the exhibition of paintings there. The amazement which the captain of the Nautilus had predicted had already taken hold of me. "Professor," said the strange man, "you must excuse the unceremonious way in which I receive you, and the disorder of this room." "Sir," I said, "without seeking to know who you are, may I be allowed to recognize in you an artist?" "Only an amateur, sir. Formerly I liked to collect these works of art. I was a greedy collector and an antiquarian, and have been able to get together some objects of great value. These are my last gatherings from a world which is now dead to me. In my eyes, your modern artists are already old. They have 2 or 3 thousand years of existence, and all masters are the same age in my brain." "And the musicians?" I asked, pointing to the works of eminent composers scattered over a large piano organ fixed in one of the panels of the room. "These musicians," said Captain Nemo, "are contemporaries of Orpheus, for all chronological differences are effaced in the memory of the dead, and I am dead, as much dead as those of your friends who are resting 6 feet under the ground." Captain Nemo ceased talking and seemed lost in reverie. I looked at him with great interest, analyzing in silence the expressions upon his face. Leaning on the corner of a costly table, he seemed to no longer see me and forgot my presence. I respected this and went on passing in review the curiosities that enriched the saloon. They were mostly marine plants, shells, and other products of the ocean, which must have been found by Captain Nemo himself. In the center of the saloon rose a jet of water lit by electricity and falling into a basin formed of a single clamshell, which was about 7 yards in circumference. All around this basin were elegant glass cases fastened by copper rivets, in which there were classed and labeled the most precious productions of the sea that had ever been shown to a naturalist. My delight, as a man of learning, can only be imagined. It was impossible to estimate the worth of this collection of corals, shells, fish, and pearls. Captain Nemo must have spent millions in acquiring these specimens, and I was asking myself from where he had gotten the money to gratify his fancy for collecting, when I was interrupted by 3 words, or these words: "You are examining my shells, Professor. They certainly must be interesting to a naturalist, but for me they have a greater charm, for I have collected them all myself, and there is not a sea on the face of the globe that has escaped my search." "I understand, Captain," I said. "I understand the delight of moving amongst these riches. You are one of those people who lay up treasure for themselves. There is not a museum in all of Europe that possesses such a collection. But if I exhaust all my admiration upon it, I will have none left for the vessel that carries it. I don't wish to penetrate your secrets, but I have to say that this Nautilus, with the motive power she contains, the things by which she has worked and the powerful man who propels her, they all excite my curiosity. I see hung on the walls of this room instruments the use of which I will just ignore. When I told you that you were free on board my vessel, I meant that every portion of the Nautilus is open to you. The instruments you will see in my room, Professor, where I shall have much pleasure in explaining their use to you, but come, see your cabin. I followed Captain Nemo, who by one of the doors opening from each panel of the drawing room regained the waist of the vessel. He took me aft, and there I found not a cabin, but an elegant room with a bed, toilet table, and many other articles of furniture. All I could do was say thank you. Your room is next to mine, he said, opening a door, and mine opens into the salon we have just left. I then went into the captain's room. It had a severe, almost monk-like aspect. A small iron bed, an office desk, a few articles of toilette, all lit by a strong light. There was no comfort, only necessity. Captain Nemo pointed to a seat. Please, sit down. And then he showed me the range of his instruments, from thermometer to manometer or depth gauge, and he explained to me the locomotive power of the Nautilus. It was gained by electricity, but Captain Nemo had not only discovered the secret of extracting electricity from the chemical elements of the sea, he had found a way of harnessing the potency of electricity to drive his submarine vehicle, to also light it, to run chronometers with marvelous accuracy, and even to communicate by wire with the ship's boat, which could be released to the surface of the water. Then he went on to explain how the strength of the Nautilus was due to its having two hulls, a fitted one inside the other in a cellular arrangement, so that they resisted as if they were a single immensely thick hull. Not only were these hulls capable of resisting projectiles, but also the pressure of the depths, to which the vessel could sink easily by filling its reservoirs. Again, electricity drove the pumps which expelled the water and allowed the vessel to rise. The jets of water, which we had earlier mistaken for the exhalation of some giant cetacean, were the final expulsion of water when the vessel got to the surface. But how, I asked, is the Nautilus steered? In order to steer my vessel horizontally, said Captain Nemo, I use an ordinary rudder, worked by a wheel and tackle, but I can also move the Nautilus by vertical movement, by means of two inclined planes fastened to the sides and at the center of the flotation. The planes can move in every direction and are worked from the inside by means of very powerful levers. When the planes are kept parallel with the boat, it moves horizontally. When slanted, the Nautilus, according to their inclination and under the influence of the screw, either sinks according to an elongated diagonal, or rises if it suits me. And when I wish to rise even more quickly to the surface, I engage the screw, and the pressure of the water causes the Nautilus to rise vertically, like a balloon into the air. Oh, bravo, Captain, I said. But how can the helmsman follow the route that you give him in the middle of the water? The helmsman is in a glass cage jutting from the top of the Nautilus, and he's been given lenses. They're capable of resisting the pressure? Perfectly. Glass, which any blow can break, offers nonetheless a lot of resistance. During some fishing experiments we made in 1864, we saw plates less than a third of an inch thick resist the pressure of 16 atmospheres. Now, the glass that I use is not less than 30 times thicker than that. I I see, but after all, Captain, it is all dark underwater. How do you see where you're going? There is a powerful electronic reflector placed behind the helmsman cage, and the rays light up the sea for about a half a mile. Oh. Now I can account for the phosphorescent in the supposed narwhal that had puzzled me so. May I now ask you if the damage that you did to the Scotia was accidental? Oh, yes, it was quite accidental. I was sailing only 1 fathom below surface when the shock came. Did anything bad happen? No, sir. But what about the shock that you gave the Abraham Lincoln? Professor, it was a great pity for one of the best ships in the American Navy, but they attacked me. I had to defend myself. Besides, I contented myself with putting it out of power in its ability to harm me. There won't be any difficulty in getting it repaired at the closest port. Commander, I said, your Nautilus is certainly a marvelous boat. Yes, Professor, said Captain Nemo with genuine emotion, and I love her as if she were flesh of my flesh. Though all is danger on one of your ships in subjugation to the hazards of the ocean, below and on board the Nautilus, the heart of a man has nothing to fear. There is no deformation to fear, for the double hull of this vessel is rigid as iron. There is no rigging to be injured by rolling and pitching, no fit sails for the wind to carry away, no boilers for steam to blow up, no fire to dread, as the apparatus is made of iron and not wood. There is no coal to get exhausted, as electricity and its mechanical agent. There is no collisions to fear, as it is the only vessel down in the depths. No tempest to worry about, as there is perfect calm some yards below the surface. The Nautilus, sir, is the ship of ships, and if it is true that the engineer has more confidence in the vessel than the constructor, and the constructor more than the captain, you will understand with what confidence I say, I trust my Nautilus, as I am at the same time captain, constructor, and the engineer. Captain Nemo spoke with captivating eloquence. His fiery look and passionate gestures transfigured him. He did. He loved the vessel like a father loves a child. But a question, maybe an indiscreet one, came into my mind, and I could not help asking, you're an engineer, Captain Nemo? Yes. I studied in London, Paris, and New York when I was still an inhabitant of the world's continents. But how could you construct this submarine, this Nautilus, in secret? I had each separate portion made in different parts of the globe, and it reached me through a disguised address. And all of the manufacturers had my orders under a different name. So how did you put it all together? I set up a workshop out on a desert island in the middle of the ocean. There, my workmen, that is to say, my brave companions who I instructed, and I put together our Nautilus. When the work had ended, fire destroyed all trace of our proceedings on the island, which, I should have blown up if I could. One last question, Captain Nemo. Ask, are you rich? Immensely, immensely rich, sir. And I could, without even missing it, pay off the English national debt. I stared at the person who was speaking. Was he taking advantage of my credulity? I guess we were just going to have to wait and find out. And I guess that we are going to have to wait and find out as well. That was a longer chapter than I was expecting, so I think we're just going to do one, because looking at it, the next one is the same length or longer. And I have a massive desire to go outside and play in the sun. Still a little bit cold. Might need a jacket, but the sun is out. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Thank you as always for listening. I hope that words. I hope that you enjoyed that chapter. The Nautilus is definitely a fantasy construction, because every picture I've ever seen of a submarine, cramped and space effective are the two names of the game for submarines. I don't think you're going to have like 20-foot ceilings and 50-foot salons but if you've never seen a submarine before and you don't know exactly how pressurized the bottom of the ocean is, if I were going to do a fantasy sub, it would probably be big and comfortable. So good on you, Jules Verne. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to go outside and I am going to play. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are having a lovely day as well. Hit that thumbs up, hit the thumbs up on your way out, and I will see you tomorrow.